How dare you threaten me, child?
We're way beyond threats, Genya! Giant Robo! Annihilate that thing once and for all! Go! Get it, Robo! Do it!
I mean, I can pretty much stop the video there, right? So in response to an overwhelming lack of demand for it, I decided that fuck everyone, I want to talk about Giant Robo this week, because last week it got me really hyped up and I started watching the damn thing again. It's really not a show that gets talked about enough, quite frankly, because it's fucking great and you should all go and watch it right now. So shut this fucking video off and go and watch the damn show. Giant Robo, The Day the Earth Stood Still, is an OVA that was released between the years of 1992 and 1998. It was supposed to take 36 months to finish, and as you can probably tell, it overran by a small amount. I'm not 100% sure of the actual reason why it overran, but if you want my honest opinion, it's probably because of how fucking stunning the show looks. I mean, seriously, for the one man and their dog that's actually seen this show, or moreover talks about it, you can just like sit and watch any scene and it looks pretty fucking gorgeous, considering it's the old style of hand animation. Every now and then you'll find a wonky backwards background character, but that's pretty much your lot. Like, the animation quality is just fucking something else. Based on the original manga by Mitsuru... some Japanese guy whose name I'm completely butchering, so let's just pretend that that's not happening, and populated with the characters of his other works. The world has experienced its third energy revolution. With the invention of the Shizuma drive, all our energy needs were met. Now a criminal organisation called Big Fire seeks to unite 3 attaché cases, each containing a sample. When the 3 are united, all the Shizuma drives will cease to function and be destroyed, and Big Fire can claim conquest over the world. Can the I.P.O, Daisaku and Giant Robo save the world from annihilation? On the surface, it probably sounds like a lot of stories you've heard before, but trust me when I tell you that the way the story starts is not the way the story ends. There are a lot of twists and turns along the way based on, well, several factors, like the tragedy of Bashtarel, which runs in the background and parallel to all of the story elements that go with it, and the overarching narrative about Dr. Franken von Folger and his involvement in the tragedy of Bashtarel. So let's talk about the characters for a little bit. Daisaku is the main character, and is probably the worst part of the entire show, in all honesty. That and the broken as fuck dub. But the rest of the cast is fucking awesome. My favourite character of the lot is Taiso, and to say that he basically could carry the show on his own, in fact I know for a fact I'd sit and watch a standalone story about him, is an understatement. Backing him up you have Gimray, who is the fan service for the most part, but is honestly very interesting and deep as well. She has quite a good arc and a narrative overall. Tetsugu is less interesting, but still pretty good. And behind that, you've got Chief Chujo and Professor Go. And alternatively, on the Big Fire side, you have the likes of Alberto, who is a baller, and Genya, who is essentially the counterpart to Daisaku, though he's the character voiced by Steve Blum that you saw in the intro. There are a few other characters that come in and out of it along the show's run, but honestly those are the only ones that are in the first episode, so I won't ruin the introductions of the others. You can watch them for yourselves. Well, apart from Kenji, but I'm not spoiling anything about him. Just go watch it. I can't keep saying that enough. I honestly don't think there's a wasted character in it, really. Like, you know, some of them have less than others, but they all do have a good story arc and a narrative to follow, and each one of them services the plot in their own way, shape or form. Every one, apart from Daisaku, essentially has their own superpower, which is pretty interesting, and they're all really different and varied. Some of them have drawbacks, some of them don't, but again, it's something you'll have to find out on your own. Now, I mentioned the dub earlier, and I am aware that there are 2 different dubs for this. I've only ever watched the original one, and from what I understand, the second one does solve some of the more problematic narrative aspects, where in the original dub there are lines that just make no fucking sense or seem completely out of context of the show in general. But I honestly can't sit through the second dub. I have tried. It takes a lot of the fun out of it, and has some of the better lines are just toned down to the point where they don't have the dramatic punch they did for me. That's probably the nostalgia talking, though. I was pretty young the first time I watched through this show. While we're on the subject of sound, the soundtrack is balls to the wall amazing from start to finish and has some of the most beautiful and gut-punching pieces of music I've heard in a show short of Berserk's original anime run. Because I'm sure we all know Forces by now. It's the sort of soundtrack that I would put on par with Naruto's and that I can just sit and listen to the damn thing and not really think twice about it while I'm doing absolutely anything else. It's just a good backdrop to everything and it accentuates the high points and low points of the show beautifully. Now if you watched What's So Great About Anime Retrospective, you'll know the other thing I mentioned about this show is it has a nasty habit of bringing up really stupid philosophical questions, and for the most part it's Daisaku that tends to spout that. He does have a bad habit of acting like a child. Because he is. I think he's supposed to be like 12. In fact, I know he's 12. I've watched the show. What am I talking about? The thing I will say about some of the philosophical questions is they seem dumb when they're presented flatly, but in terms of the theme and the narrative, they're actually done far better than the show lets on. I actually wonder if this is another problem with the dub, because again, this is one of the few shows I haven't actually watched in Japanese. Stop throwing things at me. I'm sure you all have shows like that where you watched it in English the first time and now it just sounds ridiculous in any other context, and vice versa. When you listen to it Japanese the first time, you can't really go back from it. I'm sure someone that was halfway professional would have sat and watched all 3 versions of the show, but, well, I'm just not, so suck it. So as this is clearly one of my favourite shows and I'm just basically fan wanking all over it, rather than trying to answer what's so great about this show like I normally would, I'm going to try and answer Daisaku's favourite question. Can happiness be achieved without sacrifice? Yes, because I just spent 6 minutes talking to you about a show I love without any effort whatsoever.